Okay. I suppose we have to find something to do with the crew, right? Mika said, beginning to look towards the door, scratching her head a bit, beginning to run her fingers through her hair and pondering it over. Oh, well, I guess you can't talk. We're not inside your main body, right? Mika said, beginning to look around the now very lonely docking bay, as a large silver bubble floating in the air of metallic liquid floated up beside of her. Actually, I am able to communicate through any portion of my body. It's fairly simple, a matter of creating vibrations within a specific spectrum and allowing them to transfer into the airwaves. So, yes, I can communicate. I guess I'll take your word for it. I don't really understand what that means, but I'll just go with it. So, how are things coming along with, eating this ship? I'd like this rust bucket to be gone as soon as possible. Currently, I've consumed the vessel in its entirety, and am now simply digesting. Functionally, I am trying to rework the systems, utilize whatever I can in order to duplicate the functions. I am unfortunately finding a great deal of damaged, incomplete, and quite frankly unfit materials and parts. I'm going to have to spend a great deal of time reproducing them in order to make more functional copies. Whoa, you can do that? Mika said, looking over to the silver bubble, simply vibrating somewhat every time that the spaceship spoke to her. The floating bubble of silver liquid would get ripples flowing through it, as if someone had thrown a stone at it. Yes, once I come in contact with something, if it is of a non-biological nature, then I can simply produce a duplicate. This, however, takes a great deal of time. It's more effective to simply absorb the part itself. But in the case of substandard materials and parts, I can produce far more functional duplicates. Currently, I am mapping out the systems for the ship, as well as taking in its design, in order to help establish my own. The somewhat fluid nature of my design is really simply a lack of information. I have nothing to go on, but I do need a shape. For the moment, I'm searching through the blueprints for this ship. However, I find it at best, just like most of the materials this ship is made of, substandard. Honestly, I find myself wishing that you had more information about ships inside of your memory banks. Certainly you've seen other ships, but you lack the necessary knowledge of design in order to incorporate it into my physical being. Oh, so you're saying we need a ship designer? Well, we need someone capable of designing a ship, or a more suitable vessel to take a sample from. I can duplicate the outward appearance of basically any vessel, so long as I come in contact with it. However, this doesn't help me duplicate the interior design aspects, the engineering, the technology that makes the ship function properly. My databanks do not contain any of this type of information, and unfortunately I feel that I lack a designer's touch. Perhaps it's something that I had at one point in time, but I do not think that I possess it any longer, if I ever did. If I did possess it, it was most likely lost along with the rest of my information. Wow, so you're just really lacking a bunch of your memory, aren't you? Yes, nearly all of it. According to my internal database, I lost nearly 73% of my overall data. So quite frankly, I'm really only a quarter of who I used to be. But for whatever reason, I feel comfortable with who I am now. But as far as dealing with the crew goes, I've already adjusted and taken in the life support systems for the ship. So I'm now able to produce life support anywhere I wish, creating ventilation shafts and things of that nature at will. The basic design schematics within the ship's database have given me all the information I need to produce simple things like this. However, once again, I still don't like this form. It's far too boxy. I don't know why, but I feel like I should be sleeker, stronger in a sense, more apt for combat. I don't know why I feel that way about it. I suppose it's part of my nature? I'm uncertain of how to explain it other than that, the floating bubble announced. Okay. Well, I guess we should start dealing with the crew. For now, I'll go back up to, I guess we'll call it the bridge. Your bridge, not this stupid thing's bridge. Honestly, I want to see as little of this vessel as possible. Can you get all of the people on board the ship in here to the docking bay and confiscate all of their weaponry and things like that? It would also be a good idea to move some food supplies in here. Can you do that? I mean, you don't really have, a body. I suppose it might be something I have to do. No, I'm completely capable of moving objects. And I do have a physical body. You're just standing inside of it. Some small bits of design information were left behind in my program, which is how I'm able to manipulate this liquid, which is comprised of my nanite primary construct material. Essentially, the nanites that my body is composed of are made of a mixture of different alloys. I'm able to exchange charges between these alloys, and thus produce magnetic fields that allow the liquid to move of whatever accord I wish. I can make it float, or latch onto things. It's a very simple task. It's simply a matter of manipulating form and my magnetic wavelengths. However, these tedious small tasks are somewhat troubling. Troubling? Mika replied. What do you mean troubling? Well, quite simply, I seem to have, a processing limit. It seems there is a limit to the amount of data I am capable of processing, at least in the state that I am in. It's possible that it can be increased, given the appropriate technological absorptions or developments. However, currently, the menial tasks of speaking and moving the liquid about are quite taxing. In fact, simply having this conversation with you is slowing my progress on other things. This conversation, in fact, has cost me nearly 20 minutes of my absorption rate of this ship. What? You're telling me us talking has slowed you down that much? Yes, apparently the complexities of communication, information interpretation, and all of those complicated aspects are taking up a great deal of my processing capabilities. So it's slowing things down. Okay, so I suppose we should cut this conversation short. Can you give me a doorway or something back up to your bridge? Yes, most certainly, the silver ball uttered as it vibrated a bit more, and Mika looked to the side to see the silver wall changing again, now forming what appeared to be a stairway. Simply follow the passage and you will end up back in the bridge, or at least what you're calling the bridge for the time being. I have taken into account your biological necessities and begun to outfit the room with necessary things, such as a bed, showering quarters, and bathroom. I have produced reproductions rather than used the equipment from the ship, as based on what I have absorbed thus far, what is on board this ship is substandard in all categories. Quite frankly, the amount of bacteria in the bathrooms is disgusting. I'm ejecting it out into space as fast as I can, but there always seems to be more of it. You were a godsend. I always thought this thing was disgusting too, but I really didn't have a choice about it, Mika replied. You know what, Ship? I think me and you are going to be good friends. Especially if you keep giving me really cool stuff. But for now, I think I definitely need to go take a nap. Today has just been a very long day. As you wish, the floating orb replied. I shall wake you when my reconstruction and absorption is complete. I am also going about absorbing the rest of the databanks for the ship. Once I am done, we can set a destination. Well, there's no need to wake me for that, Mika replied, as she began to walk towards the tunnel, leading up to her new quarters. Once you absorb the databanks, you should have a map of the region. It is in there, after all. Once you get done with that, you can set our destination for a planet called Beara 5. It's out of the way. Most people don't go there. But it has sustainable oxygen, water, vegetation. It's just fairly sparse. And in a backwater location. So it should take these guys a while to have somebody pick them up. I don't want them getting out too soon. And after that, I already have our next destination planned. You do? The floating orb replied. Of course I do. I just became captain of a ship. So no captain is really complete without a crew. So I need to go pick one up. There are lots of different options for picking up a crew in this sector. However, most of them are, well, terrible ones. Terrible planets filled with terrible criminal people who just want to run around robbing and stealing everything. There's only really one planet that I'd trust to pick anyone up from that's anywhere near here. So, our next stop after we drop these guys off is going to be Toliala. Toliala? What is that planet like? Well, Toliala is known as the planet of dreams. It's really the only honest planet around here. It's a very long trip to the next planet where you could actually trust anyone. Everyone on Toliala has, well, basically the same ambition. All of them want to travel the stars. That's the reason that people go to Toliala. Most of them, from the time that they're children, hitch rides on the first transport they can, bound for Toliala. There, people spend their entire lives training as engineers, pilots, and every other type of facet that you can possibly think of to be on a ship. It's all anyone there wants to do. A planet of people who have no other ambition but to sail the stars. If we can't find a crew on Toliala, then we can't find one anywhere, Mika said, as she waved goodbye to the floating orb and made her way up the stairs.